Good afternoon on what is a bright, warm and blustery day. It is Friday, the 27th of May, and I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea. And a board game to unbox. Cults Across America, the board game of Cthulhu Domination. This is published in 1998. It's from Atlas Games, and it's a licensed board game from Chaosium, because obviously it uses all of the Cthulhu content which we all know and love. And well, this is 1998, and if you think back to then, 24 years ago, how many Cthulhu-themed board games were there out back then? You can hardly think of anything. I don't think that it's something apart from this. I don't think there were any, or almost, just a handful, if that. Now, of course, in the 21st century, you can hardly flail a tentacle about without it hitting a Cthulhu-themed board game or card game. But back then, really, the only other one you could think of would have been the classic Arkham Horror from Chaosium, and that had been sort of like out of print for a while. But we have this instead, which is essentially a Cthulhu-themed war game. Pummel the president, buy a tank, sack Arkham, sink Rillier, shoot Nyarlathotep with a cosmic ray gun, rule the free world. In Cults Across America, you'll do that and more. You'll take charge of an insanity-inducing faction of frothing fanatics. You'll command cultists, high priests, tanks, nuclear reactors, the National Guard, the Pope, the President, and maybe even Cthulhu himself. You can start the plague, assert yourself with whips and chains, race in the Mythos 500 aboard a satanic pushcart, invade the Dreamlands. And what could be more fun than sacking Waco aboard a big honking truck with a Gathathoa at your back and an Necronomicon in your hand? Cults Across America is a high-powered board game featuring challenging resource management, detailed combat choices, 3 scenarios that let you play the game you want to play, a host of cards that change the game's course in seconds, and a severe attitude like nothing you've ever seen in a board game. So yeah, that's everything on the back. You can see it is designed for 2 to 6 players, and playing time is 1 to 4 hours. It's a little bit difficult to read there because of the iconography. It's a little bit strong. But anyway, so open up. What we have first is, sorry, just don't want that slipping away, is the board. Now, automatically you can see that the production values on this are not very high. They're adequate for what you get, but really this game falls sort of like into the Ameritrash category, rather than being a Euro game, so its emphasis is more on theme and luck necessarily than mechanics and sort of like competition. So this is done on fairly light cardboard. It's not mounted at all, and what you've got is a map of the main continental USA with the addition of Arkham up there in New England, and down here we have a map of Dreamlands. And we've got various tables on here for things like, gates into and out of Dreamlands. You've got city value, which obviously for when you sack a city, or victory points, that sort of thing. A table for what happens when you have a dead president, which it takes place in the beginning of the bookkeeping segment. I'm not entirely sure that a dead president actually involves an awful lot of bookkeeping, as it were. But he does reappear in some strange places. So, not just Washington, it might be Des Moines, Rillier, Little Rock, New Orleans, and Seattle. Then we've got the combat turn order, cost of purchasing things, and dreaming modifications there. So, yeah, you get all that. And then in this copy, I have lots of little bags like this, with various tokens in there. In fact, I've got about a whole bunch of these little money bags containing the tokens. Essentially, little cardboard chits. I'll just show you that. That's where we're getting, plus a couple of 6-sided dice. In the bottom here, I have got a poster for a bit of advertising for another Atlas Games, which game's title, which is the role-playing game Unknown Armies. Very nice. A bit of advertising down there. I'll just slip back in there. And then there's a big stack of cards. And there's also a rule book as well, which I'll have a look at in a moment. So what we've got is quite a thick deck of cards. With the effects, it's just like sticks and stones. Take a sticks and stones counter from the stockpile and give it to any active counter. So yeah, so just flipping through these, see if there's anything interesting in here. I removed the terrible the remains of the rubber band above those. I should really back these up in myself. Stop them sort of flailing around in the box. Satanic pushcart. Take a satanic pushcart counter from the counter stockpile and give it to any active counter. Let's see if there's anything interesting. Basically, okay, what else we've got? Artifact hordes. Play this card immediately. Each faction that controls one or more sacred art relics at the end of the next game's turn, booking faith gains 1 victory point per relic possessed. And what's interesting here is if you have a look, see if I can find an example. Here we go. Definitely something a bit more thematic in terms of the Cthulhu mythos. We have Summon Nile Arthurjet, and if you have a look, you have a non-Euclidean E in there, and that's something which runs throughout the design of the game. Summon Nile Arthurjet appears in New York. If you have an active counter there, you gain control of Nile Arthurjet. Otherwise, control is determined normally. You may not play this card if Nile Arthurjet is already in play. So these, and then we have Carnage and Bloodletting. Play this card immediately. Each player gains 1 victory point for every 3 opposing cultist cells he destroys in combat during the next game turn. So there's automatically, you have this degree of randomness in terms of things that happen and things that are going to happen. So Carnage and Bloodletting essentially is, okay, this changes how people will play, not on the current, essentially during the next turn. So these cards will do all that. So yeah, lots of different cards. You know, Summon Gug. Just flipping through these. Oh, Herbert West. Play this card immediately. After any cultist cell, high priest, or personality of creature is removed from play. The counter is not removed from play, but is instead relocated to any city adjacent to the city where he expired with his equipment. Control is determined normally according to, essentially, but with the original controlling having no preference, the card may be played during combat. So yeah, there's a couple of Herbert West cards in here. You have Vaccine. Remove play counters from 2 cities. Not entirely sure that would work these days. Or Big Honking Truck. Take a Big Honking Truck counter from the capture stockpile and give it to any active counter. Whips and Chains, Control Creatures, Health Insurance. All of your active counters are immune to the plague. Keep this card face up in front of you for the remainder of the game. You may sell or trade this card and its effects at any time. So you automatically, essentially, as you can see, there's a satirical element to this game. So then we have the rulebook, plain and simple. Again, with the non-Euclidean E on the front. And it says, neither the designer nor Atlas Games condones real-life cultism, violence, extra-dimensional creatures, summoning weapon purchase or manufacture, biological warfare, the plague, veneration of relics, armed or armed conflict in the streets. For that matter, neither the designer nor Atlas Games condones any behaviour not recommended and endorsed by authorities. Please consult your local authorities for complete details. Cults across America is a work of satire. Any similarities between persons and events in this game and persons and events in real life are for satiric purposes only. We did it because it's funny, see? So we've really got the options here that said how you play the game. Is you've got the standard game, which is intended for players who don't mind taking a few hours to play a game, but like a strong dose of beer and pretzels flavour, even if it means the painstaking enacted strategic schemes are occasionally foiled by a player who managed to win the Mythos 500. The strategic game. This is similar to the standard game, but removes some of the really weird stuff. It allows more conventional board gamers to concentrate on sane strategies and not get too disturbed by wandering madness. And the bloodbath scenario. This is Cults Across America on steroids and can be played in little as an hour. The rule set is reduced somewhat, so players don't have to get all concerned about resource management and other fiddly details. The victory conditions are simple too. You win by stomping the hell out of anything that's not on your side. Last man, or whatever, standing takes the day. Personalities include Mr. Good On At You, Marching Band, Pope, President of the United States, Director of the CDC, Ambassador from Uruguay. So that's part of the setup. And then we really get into the details of the game. And then I like the fact that, you know, this is a beer and pretzels game, but we've got like a good third of that page is devoted to an example of play. I mean, that's really great. There's a combat example. Speedy combat rules, combat example again, you know, just setting you up there. And then it's going through the various counters and what they do. So there's quite a bit to learn in terms of the various counters, and you know, a lot of the sort of like the flavour and detail is going to be on those, and then we get into the sort of like the strategy and the tactics for the different game. So I mean, the rules themselves are about 11 pages long. Actually, 11? No, they're 9 pages long, because what you've got at the end here is an example of play, and that's a really good, useful. And they've got details on name your cult, and you've got a name your cult sheet at the end. And surprisingly, one of the great things about this is it's sort of like, it's 16 pages long. Okay, there's the full rules, and you've got a bit of advertising on the back. So for other Atlas games which have been available at the time, Spammers, Once Upon a Time, which is Andrew Railstone's and James Wallace's card game of telling fairy stories, and then of course Lunch Money, which is the card game of being confronted by your playground bully, which was a little bit controversial back in the day. I should have to look that out, but what you've got in the back is an index. For a 16-page rulebook, most of which isn't rulebook, that's really kind of good. I'm really quite impressed by that. Anyway, I actually think this game could be actually a lot of fun if you get into it. I mean, it's going to be light, battling fun. For all I can gather, it's pretty much like playing a version of Risk, but more thematic. And I'm wondering whether or not, you know, the popularity in Risk over recent years, especially with the arrival of Risk Legacy, might, you know, basically create some interest in something like this, but probably not on the grounds that there are lots and lots of other Cthulhu games out there now, almost too many to mention. And I think the other Cthulhu themed card game at the time would have been Creatures and Cultists, I think, from Pagan Publishing. That's the other one that didn't come to mind earlier, but it does now. So really, this is a little bit of a basically an interesting design from sort of like before the rise of the board game as we know it, and the rise of the Cthulhu board game as we know. Anyway, so let's put this back, and this is, let's say, Cults Across America, 1998, published by Atlas Games. Interesting design, which, you know, if you're a fan of Call of Cthulhu and Lovecraft weirdness, I think you would honestly enjoy this. And I'm pretty much sure that, you know, when you're playing it, if you like that sort of thing, it's going to, you know, you should play it very much with your tongue or tentacle in cheek, not necessarily your own cheek, and you know, role play that to the hell out of it, you know, as a cultist leader, because you don't often get to be one of those. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here, usually with a package, so there we go, from which I will extract a book or a game and chat about it to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button down below. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.